Well, good morning, everybody. Happy weekend. Happy belated Thanksgiving. Hopefully you're all doing well. Hopefully you had a great time with family and friends. You really lived it up, I hope, and just had a great time enjoying the meals, enjoying the fellowship, the friendships, the family time. I hope you didn't start something, some drama at your family get-together, because Thanksgiving drama, I'm pretty sure that's one of the worst kinds of drama there is to have, so hopefully you didn't do that. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore, and this week, this after Thanksgiving special, we're going to be looking at kids' rooms and Christmas. Those are our main topics for the day. Now that Black Friday has passed us by and Cyber Monday just on the horizon, I figure it's the perfect time for one of my absolute favorite yearly segments, the Christmas Gift Guide. Every single year, the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show dishes out some absolutely brilliant, if I may say so myself, some absolutely brilliant gift-giving advice. I am an extraordinary gift giver. It is my spiritual gift, one of many spiritual gifts. And I have a lot of fun doing that. Seriously, I don't know how good these gifts are. I like to brag things up and make it sound really amazing, really breathtaking, but who knows? This could be gut rot, bottom of the barrel stuff, but it's what I'm going to dish out anyway. I'll be giving out my gift guide at the end of the show, so stick around for that. It's going to be fun. Before we get to that, we're going to be talking about paint colors for kids' rooms. How do you pull off a kids' room decorating project and make everybody happy? What negotiating skills do you need to possess to please your kid, but still end up with a color on the walls that you don't detest? I've got a lot of info on navigating all of that, that whole decorating with kids topic. It's really going to be fun, but it is going to be practical. And before I move on to the next thing, I do want to say that even though we're talking about kids' rooms in those segments, basically you can apply this to anything in your home. If you, for example, have a spouse, let's just say, who's not quite as savvy when it comes to decorating or choosing colors, not quite as savvy as you are, the things that we're going to talk about can help you negotiate sometimes those awkward situations where you guys can't see eye to eye. So it'll help you with that. And maybe it's just you. Maybe you're just not finding the inspiration for whatever project is coming up in the new year or something like that. This can help you with that too. So it's a lot of info for a lot of different situations. I'm just going to wrap it up in kind of a kids' room package so that we've got something specific to talk about. Anyway, that's coming up. Right now, let's get to the paint point for the week or the home improvement point for the week or whatever it is. And this one starts with something that I mentioned in passing last week, and I'm sure it's something that I've talked about on the show multiple times throughout the years. But it's this. I'm a big-time boss when it comes to decorating for Christmas at my house. A big-time boss. Maybe you could just say I'm bossy. Maybe control freak is the right way to phrase exactly what happens. But for some reason, I have never, ever been able to let the kids help. I mean, not just do it, but help. I've struggled to let them help when it comes time to decorate the Christmas tree at my house. I don't know what my hang-up is, but whenever I put ornaments on the tree, and if they try to help, I find myself moving everything they put on the tree and repositioning it. It's become a running joke in the family. Eventually, the kids just sit down on the floor and watch me decorate the tree. That's how we do the tree at my house. They sit on couches or chairs or on the floor, and they watch me do it. And we listen to Christmas carols. That's how we decorate the tree at my house. And when we're all done, I try to convince everybody that we work together as a team. Anyway, that has been the reality throughout all of my life as a parent. Well, last year, almost to the day, I finally did it. I let them completely decorate the Christmas tree however they wanted to. However they wanted to. It was all up to them. They had free reign. You guys do what you want to do. I'm going to just sit back and let you. It was utterly freeing. They had a ton of fun, and I was freed up to put up other decor. So it was a win-win. Now, as brave as that was, And it was profoundly brave, let me tell you. But as brave as it was, before you go nuts and congratulate me, I should explain that the kids, my kids, the ones that I finally allowed to help decorate my Christmas tree, the youngest of my kids is now 16 years old. Two of them, they're in college. Two are 24 and they're out of college and they have full-time jobs. So yes, I let them help me, but maybe it wasn't the huge sacrifice that you may be thinking it was. But regardless, all of that brings me to the pain point for the week, or like I said earlier, the home improvement point, whatever it is. Of course, when I don't let the kids help with that project, that Christmas decorating project, when I don't do that, I'm messing up big time, right? It's important to involve kids in all of those things like that and to let them help, but not just the Christmas stuff. That's honestly the easy stuff. It should be anyway. It's also important to let them help with other projects around the house. And for some reason, I've done better at that. I'm not perfect. I've spent many years taking tools out of their hands or micromanaging everything they did, but at least I let them get involved in those projects. Do you know what I'm talking about here? You've been there too, right? They want to help us with so many projects that we tackle. They think it looks fun. I don't know what they're thinking, but they want to get involved, and it's very tempting to just do it for them, take the tools out of their hands and just do it for them. But if you're doing that, if I'm doing that, when we do that, and when we don't let them help, we're really missing out. And honestly, they're missing out as well. Kids need to be a part of these projects, not just because they want to be, not just because they're an extra set of hands and that helps us out, but because it's preparing them for life. It sounds crazy big and maybe ridiculous, but it's completely true. And I'm going to make the case here. First off, when kids help with home projects, they develop a sense of responsibility. They begin to understand that maintaining a home takes effort and that they can contribute meaningfully to that particular process. Now, I know not every kid is just chomping at the bit to help. You've got to understand that. Sometimes they are chomping at the bit. Sometimes we got to bring them into it. The bigger point is that these are important tasks to tackle, not just because they help us out, but because they help the kids out. They help them see that they can contribute meaningfully to these projects. And this ties in to what psychologists call self-efficacy. And who knew we'd be getting into psychology this morning? But here we are. Who knows? It's another big surprise on the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show. Anyway, self-efficacy. It's the belief in your ability to handle challenges. And when kids successfully complete a task, even something as simple as, painting a shed, trimming a bush, something like that, or holding a flashlight while you fix the car. Not that that's an easy task. If you've ever been tasked with holding the flashlight while your dad works on something, let me tell you, that is some heavy-duty, stress-inducing work, because no matter what you do as a kid, you could never point the flashlight in the right direction. But when your kids help with stuff like that, it builds confidence and pride in their abilities. It's also a great way to teach problem-solving skills. I mean, really, home projects, how often do they go smoothly? Maybe yours do. I can only speak for mine. Mine, they're a train wreck. They're full of curveballs left and right. Let me tell you, we're problem-solving when I'm tackling something at home. By involving kids in these challenges, we're teaching them to adapt, to think critically, to work through problems rather than avoid them, all kinds of good things. On top of that, from a practical perspective, these experiences, helping us with these projects, teach kids real-world skills that they're going to need as adults. Painting, yard work, even just learning how to clean up after a project. This is home ownership, right? I mean, there's the flash of home ownership, which is coming home and, you're cooking hot dogs on the grill in the backyard and the neighbor guy comes over and, you talk and stuff like that. That's what you picture home ownership is. Actually, home ownership is raking leaves into a tarp and then dragging all of these wet leaves across the yard till you don't know if you're going to be able to make it any further and you think your spine is going to give out, and then trying to put them somewhere, and then the wind blows and they all go back to where they were and you do it again. That's what home ownership really is. And by involving your kids in that, you break and shatter the image of what they think home ownership it will be, and you let them realize what it really is. And as much of a joke as I'm making there, it's really important for them to learn these skills and to pick them up. Most of us weren't taught these things in school, right? I mean, we didn't learn how to do all of that stuff in school. And if kids don't learn these things at home, they're going to end up muddling through on their own. And raking leaves is such a ridiculous example because you can figure that out. But there's so many people that I talk to on a regular basis whose parents didn't involve them in these processes like painting or something like that. And now they struggle to do these things as adults. They're trying to learn. And things that I think are so basic and so simple are so out there for them, concepts that are almost too big to grasp, and they're working through them, or they just decide, I can't do it, I'm not doing it, I'm going to just hire it done. And since I can't afford to hire it done right now, I guess I'm going to just wait on it and leave these projects untackled for now. Those are all bad places to be. By jumping into these projects on your own and then bringing your kids in to help you, you're teaching them all of these skills. You know, as parents, our job is to raise good people, right? That doesn't just mean kids who are polite, who do well in school, and they're respectful to others. Those are really important things. But raising up our kids to be good people means raising kids who are equipped for life, kids who know how to paint a room, mow a lawn, trim a tree, all of those things. Now, I didn't learn to paint when I walked into RepcoLite and started working one day, 20-some years ago. I learned to paint way before that because my mom painted all the time. And as I got older, she brought me into the work. She showed me how to move through a room, how to get good results, how to see value in the effort. And that's what we're doing when we include our kids. We're giving them skills that they'll carry with them for the rest of their lives. Now, of course, this doesn't mean throwing a roller in their hands and saying, just go for it. Paint the wall, paint the living room, paint the ceiling, go crazy. That's not what I'm talking about. The key is to bring them in stages, and start with age-appropriate tasks. If you've got young kids, they can help clean out brushes maybe. They can hold the flashlight, for example. Just give them earplugs in case you need to yell at them really badly because they're pointing it in the wrong direction. Maybe get a headlamp or something that you can wear and control your own light. That way, if they blow the job, they don't do it the right way, you don't have to chew them out. Middle schoolers, they can tackle garage painting perhaps, basement walls, painting block wall basements, exterior projects where mistakes aren't catastrophic. Bring them in. I know it's not an easy thing to do. You want to pull the brushes and the tools out of their hands because maybe they're slow in the beginning. But when you gut through it, they learn and they pick it up really crazy fast. Kids are incredible learners. And once you've let them learn some of these tasks and let them pick them up, you're going to be reaping that reward forever. If you've got teens, let them paint a room, let them sand the deck, let them drive screws, whatever you need to do. They can tackle almost any project. My kid and I, we just spent, he's 21. He's been working on stuff with me for a while, but we just, this past weekend, did a bazillion jobs outside that I could not have accomplished alone. He chimney swept. He did all of that himself. He got the leaves off the roof, out of the gutters, while I was doing other things. He was on an extension ladder, trimming trees. It was great. I had somebody who was capable and able to help me through these projects because I let him do some of these things. And he built up some confidence, got a little more aware of how to handle things, and he learned along the way, learned it fast. And even this time, it wasn't easy to just let him work. When I would see him struggling and trying to figure something out, like the chimney sweeping, I wanted to get up there, take the tools out of his hand, and just work through the process and get it done faster. But nobody learns that way. And I know what's the important thing to do is to let him learn it on his own. He did, figured it all out. It was great. Let your kids help. If you do that, you're going to teach them confidence, problem solving, the value of hard work, all those great things. And on top of that, you'll end up with an extra set of hands to help you around the house. All right, that's the paint point or the home improvement point for the week. Now let's take a break. And when we come back, let's talk about how you can work with your kids when it comes to finding colors for their rooms. If you've ever struggled with the process, I've got some tips that will help. That's just ahead. Stick around. Welcome back. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. It's the day after Thanksgiving, or the couple days after Thanksgiving, or I guess depends on where you're listening. If you're on the east side of the state, it's 3 days after Thanksgiving. Does anybody care? No, I don't even care. Don't know why I'm going on and on about that. Sometimes I just fall into this rut, and I can't get out of it. I had something I was going to say, and even though I realized partway through that it wasn't worth saying, my brain's already locked and loaded. It's committed. We're going to finish saying it, and I'm still talking about it. Shut up, Dan. Move on. Anyway, last segment, we talked about why it's important to get your kids involved, in projects around the house. It's not rocket science. Most of you are probably well aware of all of that. And if this is news to you, or if you're struggling, that was really who I was talking to, is the people like me sometimes who struggle to let go of certain tasks and to let the kids do certain things. I just really wanted to dig into and talk about why it's so important to do that, to let go. We talked about that last segment. And as we did talk about that, one thing did crop into my mind, and I want to get to it here. Imagine this scenario. You let your kids get involved. Maybe this sounds familiar. Maybe this has happened to you. You let your kids get involved with something, maybe picking colors for their bedroom, and it turns out the color they pick is absolutely not the color that you had in mind. Maybe it's bright red or some kind of crazy green or a blinding yellow. You work so hard in your home to create this nice flow from room to room. It looks great. And then now you've got this one room, this kid's room, that threatens to throw the whole thing off balance. What do you do in that situation? I just said, let your kids help, let them learn, let them get involved. Well, what happens when they do and this goes down? They've got some crazy color choices. Seems like, as you're sitting down, staring down the situation, seems like there's a couple of different options. You could take over and insist on choosing the color yourself, or you could let your kid go wild and then just live with their bold choices, even if it completely disrupts your carefully crafted decor. Well, neither one sounds terribly great. And as it turns out, thankfully, those aren't the only options. There's many other options, some of them really sneaky and really smart, some of them just, kind of obvious, but tons of options. Today, let's talk about how you navigate that situation. And the tips that I've got aren't just for kids, by the way. If your spouse maybe isn't as color savvy as you are but wants to be involved in the process, or even if you're struggling to find inspiration, these ideas can help. All right, let's get started. We'll get one on this side of the break. We'll get the rest on the other side. But let's start with this first one. And I love it. It's super sneaky. You don't let your kid have the option to pick the color. Okay, I just said let your kids help pick the color. Now I said don't let your kids have the option to pick the color. What I'm getting at is this. Don't let your kid loose in the paint aisle to pick whatever color they want. That's a recipe for disaster. Right? That's just, it's going to go south fast. Instead, start that whole process at home, far away from color chips, fan decks, far away from Pinterest boards. Just ask them a simple question. What color do you want in your room? Green, yellow, pink, blue? Most of the time, kids really just want to feel like they're involved. I'm talking little kids here, but they want to feel like they're involved. And they're perfectly happy to say, I want purple or I want blue. And once you've got that general color that they're leaning towards, you can go to the store on your own. I mean, there's a bunch of people out there going, oh, I see what he's talking about now. This is pretty smart. You go to the store and you pick 2 to 3 shades of that color, that blue, that purple, or whatever. You pick 2 to 3 shades that will work with your home's overall aesthetic. Then you bring those home and let your kid pick one of those 3 or one of those 2. And they're going to feel like they were involved in the process. They had their choice. They wanted blue. They got blue. They even got to pick blue. But you actually narrowed down the choices ahead of time and gave them choices that you could live with. So no matter what they picked, you were okay with it. Now, if you bring them to the store and let them see all the options, or worse, you hand them a fan deck, if you do that, you're sunk. All right, you're on your own. If you've already done that, that ship has sailed. You're on your own. You're going to have to listen to the other advice to get yourself out of that problem. Keep your options limited right off the bat and within the range of colors that you can accept. That approach is going to keep you in control while still giving your kids the input that they're craving. All right, that's the first brilliant tip I've got. I've got, 8 more, and we'll get to those on the other side. Stick around. And we're back. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore, and we're talking about kids' rooms. Mainly, I guess, we're talking about how you navigate some color choices that kids could make. What do you do if you hate the bold choices they come up with? I mean, I've seen it hundreds of times at RepcoLite personally. I've run into lots of other stories where parents let their kids choose, and the colors the kids picked were nuts. You think you're doing the right thing as a parent. You're being magnanimous, letting them be involved, but then it bites you in the bottom, and you've got to deal with that problem. So that's what we're doing. That's what we're talking about ways to navigate that scenario. And remember, it isn't just about kids' rooms. This all can be applied to really any color conflict that you run into, maybe with a spouse or a friend or something like that. These could be ways to help you navigate the waters. All right. And I should mention before I jump completely back into this is that to pull this list together, this brilliant list I've drawn from my own experiences, as well as a number of brilliant articles that I ran into online. And I'll put links to those articles in the show notes if you want more info. All right, we got through one brilliant idea in the last segment. Let's keep going. Another simple way to deal with the color choices that kids make, and we recommend this one all the time. It's not rocket science, but you bring the color in with accessories. All right, if your kid selects a color that you just can't live with, maybe a bright blue, a bright green, whatever, pick a color that you can't stand. Imagine that your kid can't be swayed. They're absolutely locked in. This is the choice. Well, then accessories are your saving grace. So look for bedding that features their color, but balances it with other, more neutral tones. Find artwork, throw pillows, rugs maybe, that incorporate that bold color choice in small doses. Even consider painting small furniture pieces, maybe a desk, maybe a dresser with that chosen color. Maybe it's just the knobs of the dresser. Maybe it's just the drawer fronts. Maybe it's an alternating drawer front or whatever, just to get that color in the space, but in a controlled, smaller manner. Accessories can be changed out. Little things that have been painted can be swapped out or painted again to new colors as tastes change. Much easier than redoing the whole room. So that might be a way to bring that color in and still keep it controlled. All right. Another way, and kind of along the same lines of what we were just talking about, if your kid isn't going to accept, just a piece of artwork or some random couple of accessories with that color in it, why not employ the monochromatic color scheme trick? And really there's, isn't some established monochromatic color scheme trick. It's just words that I use to make it all sound better and sound smarter. But it's still a good idea. Now, a monochromatic color scheme, it really just uses one color and then varying tints, shades, and tones of that color to flesh out the rest of the room. So basically, you could take the initial green or the blue or the yellow that your kid is leaning towards and bring that into the space in small portions, like we just talked about, some accessories or whatever. So take that brighter, bolder color, bring it in with accessories, but then bring other tints, tones, and shades of that color into other parts of the room. Now, the end result is going to be a room that's definitely green or blue or yellow, so they're getting the color they want. The whole room is going to feel like it's the color they want. But if you're smart about it, the bulk of the color that you see in that room is going to be, their chosen color, but in a value that you can accept, that you can work with, that you can live with. The yellow room is going to have aspects of brighter, bolder yellows, the yellow that they wanted, but the overall walls, the overall room could be a warm, buttery color, for example, just to use yellow as an example. So monochromatic color schemes, that's another way to bring that color in a way that you can still live with. All right, next idea is this. You can tweak the color and no one's going to be the wiser for the most part. All right, this one is a little bit sneaky. I get that. But sometimes you've got to do what you've got to do. So let's say your child insists on a bold, in-your-face green that you absolutely can't handle. Can't do it, not going to do it. I'd rather, burn the house to the ground than put that green in there. But your kid won't back down. Well, instead of using their exact choice of green, find a similar shade with a softer undertone, something that you can live with. Once it's on the walls, they're probably not going to notice the difference. Most kids just want their room to feel green or blue, and they're not married to a specific shade, even though they think they are. You put a shade on the wall that you can live with, they're going to think that was exactly what they picked, and it's going to let you meet them halfway, without sacrificing your sanity along the way. So that's one idea. Might work, might not in your scenario. Keep it in mind. Keep it in your back pocket. Another one, remember that accent walls and two-tone walls are a thing. We talked about them last few weeks, but don't forget about these. They're a great option. If the bold color that your kid has picked is just too much for an entire room, just put it on one wall. An accent wall is a great way to add a pop of color without overwhelming the space. But if that even feels like too much, remember those two-tone walls that we talked about the last couple weeks. Use the bold color on the lower half or a smaller portion of the wall, and then a more neutral tone on the upper half. And that approach is definitely going to help you get that color in there, but keep the room balanced. So your kid still gets their choice. You still get to live with a room that's balanced. All right. Another idea. If that is still too much, the color is too bright, you can't imagine putting it on an accent wall or even on a two-toned wall. If it's still too much for that, try this. Instead of painting, a focal wall, which is what we typically, usually do with an accent wall or a two-tone wall that usually is going to go on a focal wall. Instead of doing that, do the accent wall thing, but paint the door wall. This is a really, really good trick. It's a little sneaky, but it's really good. From the hallway, you're not going to see that bold color. So it's not going to disrupt the flow of your house. It's not the right wall to make an accent wall, but this is not the right color to put on an accent wall, right? So that's your argument. That's your response. So put it on that door wall. They get all the enjoyment of having that color in their room. They've got it on a full wall. I mean, they're living the dream. They're living the high life, and you don't have to see it from the hallway. So the flow is still in place, still intact. It's a subtle way to include their choice without letting it dominate the room. All right, what about wallpaper? Another way to bring in a powerful or a tricky color is to check out some wallpaper books and patterns at RepcoLite. Now, this is absolutely a gold level recommendation for a lot of reasons. First off, there are so many cool patterns out there. If you haven't looked at wallpaper in a while or haven't considered it, I know a lot of you haven't. I talk to you on a regular basis. A lot of you just have written off wallpaper. It's dead to you. If you haven't looked at wallpaper in a while, stop by. I mean, there's no commitment. Just stop by and flip through a few of the books for a while. Get a cup of coffee. We've got it there. Look through some books just for a few minutes. If you do that, you're going to be blown away at how dramatically wallpaper has improved over the years. The patterns nowadays, they're amazing. They're so wide-ranging. You can find all kinds of stuff that would fit in any room of your home. The colors are beautiful. The patterns are interesting. They're great. And to save some money on the project, because wallpaper is not inexpensive. I get that. To save money on a project with wallpaper, maybe just paper one wall. Instead of painting an accent wall a single color, bring wallpaper in, behind the headboard or on the focal wall of the room. The patterns are going to fill the space, not just with color, but also with visual textures that paint alone struggles. It really can't. Paint alone can't accomplish what these textures will do, what these visual textures will do. It's an amazing way to up the design of any space in your home. And in a kid's room, this can be especially powerful because you can find so many fun patterns. And that part's great, but you can also find those patterns in almost an unlimited palette of curated colors. So if your kid has a bold color in mind and you cannot talk the child out of it, wallpaper is a great way to bring that color into the space. You'll find patterns where the color is featured, but where it's presented alongside other colors, curated colors. That's what I was getting at. These colors balance. They're chosen specifically to balance the tone and soften the strength of other colors within, the palette, within the pattern. It's the best of both worlds. Your kids are going to get the color they want. You get a sophisticated design and presentation of that color. So wallpaper, it's a great option. And while you're flipping through wallpaper books, ask about wallpaper murals. Again, if you haven't looked at murals recently, you're going to be blown away at what's out there. And you may find ways to bring the color in a controlled and reasonable manner using a mural as well. So all of that would be another option to think about. And talking about murals, another way to bring color into your space, but to keep it controlled, is to paint your own mural. Now, this isn't for everybody. I get that. But if you've got some skills, you're a bit artsy, there are a lot of interesting things that you could do in that space. And using Benjamin Moore color samples, you can acquire a good collection of colors, actual paint to work with, without breaking the bank. I don't have time to talk about this whole project today. I've got other things I want to get to yet. But in the future, we're going to talk about murals, how you would do them, what tools you would need to use, how you can save some money on your paint, and then also some things that you need to make sure you avoid so you get great results. We're going to do that another time. Today, I'm just throwing the idea out there. Wallpaper murals, a great way to go. Painting your own mural, another great way to get certain elements, certain colors into a space without letting those colors overwhelm the space. All right, my next point on my list, don't freak out. do some research first. Now, this point is kind of vague, but here's where I'm going. I've heard a lot of colors described to me in my time working at RepcoLite, and there are many times that what I'm hearing sounds absolutely hideous. I mean, hideous. But then I see some pictures, and it begins to make more sense. Case in point, working with Haley years back on a big event that we ran where we had to paint large displays that would look like little room vignettes, Haley told me her idea was pink walls with a rust or terracotta color on the baseboard. All right, I did not handle that like a grown-up. I didn't take that very well. I could not imagine painting these displays with colors that look like that and then putting these displays in front of people and saying, I made that. All right, I could not imagine that. But then Haley, tolerating my lack of vision, she spent some time showing me color chips and pictures of spaces using similar combinations, and I realized that my mental version was completely wrong, which is a place I live in. My mental version of whatever has happened is usually profoundly wrong. Anyway, I realized it in that instance, and my point is this: you don't always get accurate visions of what's possible by just thinking about a given color in a given space. So when your kid says bright green, you may imagine the worst, but before you freak out or pitch a fit and dig in your heels, just do a little Googling. Do a little research. Look online for pictures of green kids' rooms or bold blue bedrooms or whatever. You might find examples that inspire you, or at least help you see the potential or a way forward. I don't know. It's not going to work in every situation, but it can work, and it does work in certain situations. All right. All of those issues crop up when your kid has a vision that doesn't align with yours. But what if your child can't come up with a vision for the space? With that said, what if you can't come up with a vision for a space that you're working with? Well, one way to jumpstart that creative process is to work from a source. Is there a favorite art piece to work from? Maybe, a favorite illustrated book, a favorite illustration from that book. Check out the color combinations in that to see if there's a color scheme that could be tweaked, pulled out, put to use. And don't just stop there. What about favorite outfits? Clothes. One thing we tell adults when they're stuck and can't figure out colors for their space, one thing we tell them and recommend is that they look in their closets. And generally, when you do that, you're going to find a few colors that get used over and over and over again. These are the colors that you truly like best. Whether you know it or not, or are conscious of it or not, these are the colors that you truly like best, and they're the colors that you're drawn to. Well, the same is true for your kids. Older kids, they're going to make those purchases, those clothes purchases on their own. Younger ones, well, they'll have the clothes purchased for them, but they still choose to wear the clothes that they love the best, right? We all know that. Kids are pretty bossy about clothes. There's certain things they love, and often there can be a color scheme hidden right in those outfits. So check there if your kids are really young. If they're older, have them look in their closet. That can get them moving. Look at bedding. Look at rugs. Don't forget about wallpaper. Even if you don't intend to use wallpaper in your project, the color combinations in wallpaper are still amazing, and they can definitely jumpstart your creativity and get you moving. Working with your kids to help them create a vision for their space and then helping them actually achieve that vision and execute it is crazy important stuff. It's good stuff. It can be rocky along the way, but the reward and the payoff at the end can be huge. It helps kids see how everything works, how decisions play out, how design and all of that plays out into a finished product. It helps them feel connected, helps them feel involved in the process, gives them a sense of ownership of their own space. All of that's really good stuff. One last thing, remember that you don't have to do all of that alone. At RepcoLite, our color experts are here to help you find the perfect paint, the perfect color for any project. So bring in your photos, your decor, your inspiration, and we'll work with you to get it just right. All right, stick around. When we come back, I'm going to be sharing my annual Christmas gift guide. You don't want to miss that. All right, this year's gift guide, it might stink. I bragged it up, but that was before I really thought about it a whole lot. You're listening to the RepcoLite Home Improvement Show, sponsored by Benjamin Moore. And yeah, when I did think about it, I realized I had nothing, not a single idea at all. Normally, I'd talk about a lot of tools or items like that I've purchased over the year and found really useful. But this year, I didn't buy any new tools at all, really. No, I take that back. I did buy an electric power washer. But as cool as that was and as much use as I got out of it, I can't in good conscience recommend that a power washer is a really good Christmas gift. So, knowing that I had promised to deliver on this segment, I started racking my brain and thinking about the things that I did this year. What did I do that really made an impact? And when I did that, I came up with an idea, and it's a little bizarre. But it's what I've got. So here's my recommended Christmas gifts for 2024. And I only have two, but they're honkers. They're big ones, all right? My first idea is to give the gift of an experience. All right, that sounds really corny and ridiculous. Here's what I mean. This fall, I went to the ballet. It was completely out of my comfort zone, but I had a friend who was going to be in it, and I thought, yeah, why not? Maybe I'll go. So I talked to my girls, and two of them felt like going. So we bought tickets, and we waited. And I'll be really honest here. This sounded all highbrow and artsy when I bought those tickets. But as the day of the event drew closer, it started to just sound boring, really. I mean, who wants to spend a Friday evening at the ballet? Not me. Not me at all. So I hinted around with the girls as we were leading up to it, trying to see if we could weasel our way out of it, if I could weasel my way out of it and just skip it. I didn't mind the money lost. I wanted the evening at home. But the girls were adamant. They were locked in. They were excited. And so, of course, we had to go. Now, we got there. We walked around. It was in Grand Rapids. So we drove out there early because I don't like a whole lot of traffic, and I want to get to a parking lot where there's a lot of spots available. I like to have some choice when I get to that parking lot. So we got there crazy early, found a great parking spot. It was splendid. It was spectacular. And then we walked around looking for a fancy restaurant. We were all dressed up for the ballet. After all, we needed a fancy restaurant to munch something in. But as we walked around, we found nothing in our area. Nothing within reasonable walking distance. And one of the girls wore heels, so walking was definitely not something we could do a ton of. So we ended up going to this hot dog place and eating chili dogs. And it was crazy good and crazy funny because there we are in our fancy ballet clothes sucking down chili dogs. Really, it doesn't get funnier than that. So that alone was a great memory from the evening. But then we still had the ballet to go to. And when we got there and took our seats, I started again wondering, how long is this going to be? And am I going to be able to make it through without losing my mind, my sanity? Long story short, I absolutely loved it. I got it. The ballet made sense to me. It was fun. It was intriguing. It was inspiring. The girls had a ton of fun. And as we drove home, we were talking about plans to do other things like that, on a more regular basis. It was an experience that's going to stick with us for years. Now, I've always told myself something really dumb when it came to gifts. I've always convinced myself that an experience is a thing that's over in an hour or two, maybe 3. But something physical, a thing, that lasts and lasts. What an idiot. It's the opposite that's true. I don't know what I was thinking. It's the experiences that live on far longer than anything else. So my first big Christmas recommendation is to gift your family, or maybe even each kid or each person, with their own fun experience. I don't know how it would work out for your family if you could do each kid or each person separately. That's for you to interpret and figure out. But the fact that the ballet was just Tessa and Maddie and me made it a little more special. It made it easy for me to focus on just those two kids. It was us time, and it was our shared memory that nobody else owns a piece of. It was just ours. So it was really cool in that regard. But for you, find out what works for you. Brainstorm different kinds of experiences that you could pull off. They don't need to be expensive. Our evening at the ballet sounds all highfalutin and fancy, but including our hot dog meal, our chili dogs, including those chili dogs, I think the whole thing and the tickets and all of that for 3 people was $130. So not really all that crazy for 3 of us to go out and have a memory that will last for the years. As long as we can hold on to our memories, we'll have that one, and we'll have a lot of fun thinking about it. So come up with experiences that your family or that people in your family would love, plays, art museums, concerts, hikes, camping experiences. I don't know. It could be anything. But stretch outside your comfort zone as well as you're looking. I went way out of mine with the ballet, and it's been the highlight of my year so far. So stretch outside your comfort zones and look for those experiences. That's my first big Christmas recommendation. My second and final one is equally as weird. Shoot a podcast-like video interview with people in your family. All right, hear me out here. I know that sounds like just nut job stuff, but just recently, a few weeks ago, I sat down with my dad and we talked on camera about his time in Vietnam. I aired a bunch of that interview on this show, a few weeks back. There's YouTube of it that I've shared with anybody who wants to watch it. I've also got that YouTube, and I've added pictures and stuff like that, and I'll be sharing that with my whole family. That'll be a personal thing. That whole interview with Dad was crazy interesting to me. I got to see sides of Dad that I didn't know existed. I had a lot of listeners reach out and email me and say that they hoped I was saving those videos and sharing them with my kids and family. And yeah, definitely going to be doing that because the experience was so cool. Conversations that you have when you're all sitting around, talking at a great get-together, all of those great conversations are just so quickly lost to memory. And videos of people doing things at parties and get-togethers, those are cool, all the little videos that we shoot. But for the most part, in those little scenes, Dad's not going to be telling fascinating stories about his time in the war. Mom's not going to be talking, for example, about her pet raccoon when she was a little girl. They're not going to be telling those stories while everybody's filming silly Thanksgiving, or Christmas antics. But actively sitting down and recording an interview or a conversation where you just reminisce with a camera going is utter gold. These are things that you're going to capture and you're going to cherish for an incredibly long time. And trust me, I get it. It's really weird to sit there with a camera going and microphones in front of you. I do it all the time, and it's still sometimes a little bit weird. But you do forget about it as the conversation's going. You do. The longer you talk, the easier it becomes. And if you plow through and do something like that, even if it's way out of your comfort zone, I promise you're going to capture stuff that you'll be laughing and crying about for years. And what's really cool about all of this is that we all basically have all the equipment that we really, really need. The basic equipment, you probably already own it. You need a camera, and most of our phones are going to do just fine to do that. So you need your phone and probably a tripod with a little adapter that will hold your camera or your phone. So stuff that you could buy for under $30, and you already have the camera, you already have the phone. And that's technically all you would need to make this work. Now, if you want to do better, you could get a microphone that will plug into your camera, into your phone, and a small microphone stand that you could sit on the table and then just sit around. But again, even if you do that, you're talking about maybe another $50 or so. Really limited investment. Now, if you need more than one mic, there are other things you can do, other roads you can go down. I'm not going to go into that. You can look, do some research, ask about it. The big thing is to just get out there and do it. Don't get hung up in the tech requirements. Get out there and do it. Grandparents, be willing. I'm talking to you right now. I'm encouraging you, be willing to be interviewed, to sit with your kids and your grandkids and just talk and be open. And I know it seems awkward, and I know you're probably thinking that you don't know what you're going to say. You'll probably be a flop. Nobody will want to listen. You won't be a flop. Be willing. The willingness is a gift that you can give to the whole family. Kids and family, be willing to jump in and feel a little awkward at first. Like I said, I get it. It does feel weird at first to sit there and ask questions and steer a conversation, but that goes away. And the effort you put in is going to produce a video that you can gift to your whole family. It's something that they're going to love, you'll cherish it for years and years and years. All right. I can't stress it enough. Jump in, capture those moments, capture those stories. And I'm more than happy to chat with anybody out there who has questions. I don't have all the answers to all of this stuff, but I've done it for a while, and I can definitely help you get moving if you're interested, but can't figure out what your next step should be. So if you are interested, just email me at radio@repcolite.com. And I'll help you with whatever I can. I have no problem doing that. Just reach out. Happy to do it. All right, that's my unconventional gift guide for the year. I know it's not the usual stuff. I know those are not easy things to pull off. I know you're going to have to put your own spin on them, but think about them. Putting your own spin on these things, getting a little bit creative about them, that's what really can make these meaningful. All right, have a great rest of the Thanksgiving weekend. Have a great regular, back to work week next week, and then I'll see you next weekend. I'm Dan Hansen. Thanks for listening.